Oh, God.
Run.
If you've ever taken a screenwriting class before, you may have seen this clip of Trey Parker and Matt Stone talking about the concept of but and therefore. And if you haven't, well, here it is.
The scene has to work as a kind of funny sketch. You don't want one scene that's just like, well, what was the point of that scene? We've found out this really simple rule that maybe you guys have all heard before, but it took us a long time to learn it. But we can take these beats, which are basically the beats of your outline, and if the words and then belong between those beats, you're basically. You got something pretty boring. No, it should be this happens, and therefore this happens. But this happens, therefore this happens.
There, I had to save you $30,000 on a degree in screenwriting. But what Trey and Matt are talking about is that for a story to track cohesively, there needs to be an ebb and flow and connecting pieces. If you're writing a beat sheet, don't look at your beats as separate ideas independent of one another. Look at them as how they lead into each other, like dominoes. For right now, I want to focus on the but, and how it relates to the nice guys. Writer and director Shane Black uses the concept of but to a whole other level. Shane Black looks at it on the microcosm. In almost every scene of this movie, he finds a way to subvert our expectations. Take this scene for example. It's a pretty standard detective scene setup. The detective is being attacked by hired muscle to get them to stop their investigation, but this scene doesn't go the way that we're used to seeing it. In any other detective film, we would have started this scene with the detective as they were caught off guard by the muscle. But we're now starting the scene with the muscle, since he's the one going to be caught off guard. Earlier in the film, Haley mentions that he has an expectation of what a private eye should be.
Could try for an investigator's license. Become a PI. Those guys help people.
And this is the first time he's met one, and his expectations are completely subverted. He expects them to fight back, but...
Mr. March, we're gonna play a game.
I think you have the wrong house.
It's called Shut Up Unless You're Me.
I love that game.
he expects them not to give up their clients. But...
So we can do this the easy way, we can do it the hard way.
Glenn.
What?
Lily Glenn, 2 ends. Old lady hired me to find her niece on Tuesday.
You just gave up your client.
I made a discretionary revelation.
No, you just gave her up. I asked you one simple question.
he expects them to be competent and quick-witted. But... he expects them to be masculine. But...
Look, when you're talking to your doctor, just tell him you have a spiral fracture of the left radius.
No! No!
Deep breath.
The point of this scene was to challenge both Haley and the audience's expectations of what a detective should be based on our preconceived notions from other movies. And Shane Black could have just used one of these beats and called it a day, but he uses each beat in the scene to build off one another, and as soon as you think he's done pulling us for a loop, he finds another way to take the scene in another direction, building off each beat until he reaches the ultimate climax of the scene. By simply putting in but between each beat of a scene, Black is able to create exciting sequences that keep the audience from feeling bored. But he doesn't just do this on the microcosm, but also with scenes that normally wouldn't be too exciting. Take this scene. March is about to receive the case. Again, pretty standard detective stuff that we've seen done before. But, what if he was on the toilet?
Hey, no.
Now, the scene is exciting and new. Compare this scene to the Snowman, where Michael Fassbender gets the case.
And the day she vanished, it was snowing.
Pretty boring, right?
It was snowing.
Not unusual, it's winter.
Now back to Becca.
Where's the
The night she
flavor?
disappeared.
Where's the flavor in this? I don't taste anything.
The nice guys, however,
I'm gonna stay right here.
Wow. This is incredible. The flavor is immaculate. Never tasted anything like this before.
this is something Shane Black has always done throughout his career. Take Iron Man 3. AKA the best Iron Man movie, the most underappreciated MCU movie, don't at me, it just is. So, in this scene, a missile is coming at Tony Stark's house. You know, pretty standard Iron Man stuff. But what if Tony's suit wasn't working? Now, a scene that we've seen done in other Iron Man movies is fresh and exhilarating, because Tony's put in this new situation, and is forced to react and adapt to it. And that's what Shane Black does. Takes genres, characters, and movies we've seen done before and finds new ways to breathe new life into them, just by saying what if or but. And that alone would be enough. But The Nice Guys goes another step, by injecting with another bit of setup with its butts. I'm sure you've all heard of Chekhov's gun, the concept that if a gun is introduced in some point in the story, it needs to go off. The Nice Guys does this, but...
What are you doing?
Did you move it?
Move what?
The fucking gun!
What gun?
The fucking ankle gun!
Who told you I had an ankle gun?
Did I dream that?
Yeah, you moron. You dreamt it.
Going back to Trey Parker and Matt Stone, if you're a fan of South Park, you probably know about their beef with Family Guy, particularly their disdain with Family Guy's cutaway gags.
You think that's bad? Remember when I auditioned to be David Hasselhoff's car? Hey there, Knight Rider.
After those bad guys, Kit.
Their dislike for this writing tactic is that there's no setup to the jokes that are rooted within the story.
Good, Kyle. That's good anger you're showing there. See that? That's emotional character development based on what's happening in the storyline.
The Nice Guy is a good example of how to do these types of gags correctly. So let's take this scene. Ryan Gosling is falling asleep at the wheel, but Russell Crowe tells him to let go of the wheel. But the car is driving itself. And then...
Where the fuck have you been, man? Idiot, you didn't know that?
Now, the image of Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe in a car with a giant bumblebee is already pretty funny, but this scene isn't just lol so random. March has slowly been falling asleep at the wheel, so this scene starts out a little weird, throwing in Shane Black's butts. And the bee is also tied into the story. A running gag in the film is the pollution caused by car companies, the main antagonist of the film, which is Bumble's excuse for riding in the car.
I used to fly all the time, but now the smog is just disgusting, man. It's just, this pollution is out of control. All the bees are riding around in cars these days.
It's this setup and payoff that turns this scene into a connected part of the film, and not just a Family Guy cutaway gag. It's also important when Shane Black uses his butts for positive catharsis as opposed to negative. For the whole film, March struggles with his alcoholism, which is mostly played off as a gag. So, when this happens in the third act,
Free drinks, what do you have?
we expect more drunk hijinks to ensue. But...
I'm sorry. Doc.
What?
Doc.
it's great setup and payoff, subverting what we expect from March and completes his character arc. Same with Haley. We expect Haley to take the violent action to solve the problem, but instead...
Congratulations, buddy. You owe your life to a 13-year-old girl.
he spares John Boy. This is why the third act of the film is so effective. When you spend the whole film challenging the protagonist by having things not go their way, it makes it so much more satisfying to see things go their way.
Sometimes you just win.
Because we're not expecting it to happen based on everything we've seen so far. So, if you're reading over your script and finding a scene that feels dull or cliche, just sprinkle in a little bit of butt and see what happens. It's this simple writing strategy that can separate your film from any number of movies in an overstuffed genre to a modern classic.
To the birds?
Hallelujah.
Love and happiness. But wait a minute, something's going wrong. Someone's on the phone. 3 o'clock in the morning.